Tina Barr. Tina Barr's book of poems, Pink Moon, has just been released as the inaugural winner of the Editor's Choice Award from Jakar Press. Congratulations, Tina. Tina's previous books include Green Target, which is winner of the Barrow Street Press Poetry Prize, and the Brockman Campbell Award. The Gathering Eye, winner of the Tupelo Press Editors Award, and Kaleidoscope. Tina's received fellowships from the NEA, the Tennessee Arts Commission, and the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts and the McDowell Colony.
Okay, now I'm going to wrestle with the.
I'll wrestle.
How's this? Is this good?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, just feel like I can't ever move away from it. But I won't talk about my experiences with microphones. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really glad to see so many faces of people that I love. So, and I just want to thank Malaprops, Patricia and Stephanie, for all the work that they do, which is, I don't think I could do it, but anyway. I'm going to read for about 20 minutes. I'm going to read 5 poems. So that way you can count down and you know when I'm close. The first poem begins with a snake, and it takes place partly in Memphis, Tennessee, where I lived for 13 years, I guess. And as y'all know, I'm a thief. I steal other people's stories, but I always change their names. So this is a story that's embedded that was told to me by a friend of mine. And also, they're already manufacturing like robot dogs, robo dogs. Do you know this? And when you look online, you can see for the big company in Boston that's producing these, there's a little innocuous video of like robots that look right out of Star Wars, the bad guys, and the dogs, and they're all doing like the mashed potato, like this. So you think, oh, you know, how wonderful, you know, and yeah, but they're designed to kill people. So yeah, the robot dogs can fire, and they can sense heartbeat and breath. So even in our cabin on the mountain, we would not be safe. But anyway, okay. So this poem is called Deployed. His length splayed on the trail's black bottom. He turned, opened his mouth, white inside, cotton mouth. My friends who grew up in Memphis said he'd track, come after, so we backed away. At lunch, Shelby tells me her mother died when she was 21, father gone. In the living room, a cop, her uncle, and a lawyer who slid a piece of paper across the coffee table. She didn't know what she'd signed. 10 years later, she tracked down the officer who'd been called to the house. I remember, he said into the phone, she was murdered. Shelby went to Memphis, but when he'd sat down across a coffee, the cop denied it. We all learned to spell Mississippi before we left 2nd grade, that rhythm in 3 segments of sound. The river I rollerbladed beside, so swollen, trunks were 5 feet deep in it, but in spring, white filaments, tufts banked its slope. Cottonwood, another name I read before I saw it, like cottonmouth. What came out of the cop's mouth was padded in lies. Shelby signed away the state's request for an autopsy. My pet boa, Artemis, never hissed. just lunged from her tank at my hand, left the imprint of tiny teeth, a bruise in the fat pad at my thumb's base. In Libya, we've already tested robo-dogs on spiky feet, roughly the shape a kid would make from an erector set. Spot can trot in packs, sensors attuned to hearts pumping, breath. A warm yellow, 4 legs, body, an upright head, armed, ready to take aim. For police units, they're Superman blue. This next poem is really fun for me to read because I have chronic fatigue syndrome, which has been a state secret for years. But I had it, I got it 30 or 40 years ago, but only in my 60s did it really begin to amplify itself. So it's like long haul COVID, it's a post-viral or viral illness. But I feel like because people know what long haul COVID is, hallelujah to my friend over there, I feel like I can talk about chronic fatigue syndrome and people won't think that I'm just, in my bed with laudanum feeling faint or something. So this poem discloses the reality of this illness. And let's see, in this book, I use the trope of chess. And also, since this is Asheville, so we know you're a really cultivated audience, you probably all know what Greek red-figured amphora are, Greek red-figured vases that were made back at the height of the Greek civilization. They're red-figured Greek, they're white-figured, they're different kinds. But anyway, when I was 14, having always been fascinated with mythology, I decided that for my 2-week senior project, I was going to make a Greek red-figured vase. So that's sort of like me telling you I'm going to build the bookstore or something. I mean, completely incapable. But I did make a bunch of squat pots on a wheel, which turned into decent paperweights. So this poem is called The Gamble. In the 6th game of his match against Spassky, Fischer made his move, Queen's Gambit. Cold, hyper vigilant. This was years after age 13. He had sacrificed his queen in a game of the century. At an IQ of 180, frightened, he lived inside his head. Eidetic image, second nature, playing steps ahead. His imagined pawns, rooks, bishops, all threats slid in for the kill. At 14, I tried to make a Greek red-figured vase, spun globs of flecked clay to heavy paperweights, but read about red-figured, black-figured, incised, 2-handled vessels. Perseus, Hercules, helmeted like pileated woodpeckers, launched spears, wielded shields. The cloaked Spartan boy, rather than flinch, let a fox eat his innards. Fischer's fox leapt and circled in his brain. My queens are syringes of red liquid, a concentrate of B12. My rooks, derivatives of pig's liver, brain, heart, in emu oil, liquid from crushed aronia berry, powdered French oak in capsules. Many little pawns I swallow to sleep. The king, my body. An invisible virus has an end game. A doe slips downhill, ears pointed nose, hide gray as tree bark. She sidesteps any stalker, becomes invisible to me, not prey, grace. Okay. Some of you know that I have sort of peculiar interests. So this is a poem about sharks. And I don't think it needs any explanation other than knowing, which you all know, that I live in a cabin with the guy in the orange shirt on a mountain in Black Mountain. So this poem, I could go on and on about him. This poem is called Deep. Outside, the call is a caw, deep in a throat, a gurgle curled round the sound. It's no barn owl, but a bobcat beyond the shed in woods close in, a raking scream. Like fate knocking in Beethoven's Fifth, a sound like no other. The chill of my sister's necrotizing heart, her words blistered, dry as the scar on my back, years old. Crocodiles, once they have you by the arm or leg, pull to the bottom, sunk there, take you on a death roll, over and over. The air bubbled up, your flesh ragged. Before dinosaurs, sharks the size of a bus, double-fanged teeth, piles of teeth like shells on a beach in Fisher Branch, Virginia. A megalodon's tooth is 7 inches wide and high, the size of a big man's hand. Its jaw the size of an old Volkswagen. Its doorway of teeth could crush 6 men at once. These days, our sharks shed teeth every 2 weeks, press forward. So ones in the front lodge in surfboards, skin. But whale sharks, the huge polka-dotted mammoths, float open-mouthed for plankton they sieve. One could pet them. They give birth to 300 live babies. Laid out, these bundles in a Japanese fishery. We kill sharks for soup, netted, cut off the fins, wounded, thrown back alive. Angel sharks are shaped fans like a monk's shawl. Tiny lengths like string confetti trail either side of its mouth, attract fish. Sharks are immune to cancer. You know we'll harvest their cells. All right, this one it's kind of fun for me to read this one because I think it's called Casting Shade on Bezos. Anyway, even though I use Amazon all the time. And the Latin title gets translated inside the poem. Last summer, I guess it was, I found a wasp nest inside the car door. And the poem talks about those trips into space, and also the poem ends up in Switzerland. Okay. And you all know me well enough to know that I talk in those kind of tangents, which is how the poems end up like this. Gradatum ferociter. Wasps pulse over combs, hexagonal cells, hidden in the crevasse where the car's door shuts. Pressed together, the empty host of combs is like stuffing Amazon might use to pack. Bezos will take the Blue Origin rocket into space, paid for by our orders and the Pentagon. He's climbed step by step ferociously. Eventually, we'll all be able to go 10 minutes for $500,000. Once at our cabin, hail the size of ice cubes spilled on grass. NASA's found Greenland's glaciers melt from beneath, cut like sugarcane. The seas will rise along coasts 16 inches by the time a child born today is 80. Crocodile bags can cost more than a space flight. In 1975, La Donna, an actress from Mexico, trailed a croc into Cartier. So they made her a necklace. 2 crocs hinged at their tails like Siamese twins. Their heads rested on her chest, scaled with emeralds, rubies in their eyes. Ferocious, not friendly, as the settlers who gave tribes wool coverlets taken off those dead from smallpox. For some, gold is poetry. The mistress of an old boyfriend's banker at her chalet west of Geneva had basketfuls, Bulgari, Bucciolati. Bezos wants colonies, will live in pockets on space modules, but Bezos is no Bach. Okay, and then this last poem is a little bit longer, but we'll get through it. It's fun for me because it's set in this area. And some of you know from my book, Green Target, that there's a character named Farley. He's a woodsman. And I steal his stories all the time. He's like right out of Faulkner. He only wears camo. He can climb a 60 or 100-foot poplar holding a chainsaw in one hand and like climbing with the other. So he tells me stories. And there's another, his real name is not actually Farley, but I think I was looking for like Southern names for men, and that's what I came up with. There's another character in this poem, and his pseudonym is Lamar. And let's see. Okay. El Dorado. Farley says, a wagon load of gold stolen between Old Fort and the federal building in Asheville is buried somewhere between the two, maybe on the mountain behind Wendy's. Old Doc Dickerson's driveway had a circle in its center, the graves of babies. Hordes of trash buried all over these mountains. Old bottles, 2 Confederate graves, 144 buried building the railroad. Farley thinks between the watershed and Reams Creek are buried Zebulon Vance's gold-laced dishes, like doilies of gold laid over glass. Zebulon, born in a Reams Creek cabin, his father ran a provision stand for drovers moving hogs on the turnpike. Penniless, except they had 18 slaves. On a loan, Zeb earned a law degree, went to court on horseback, carried in his saddlebags a fresh shirt. Vance in Congress said that for the slave, that is his normal condition. After our state seceded, he raised a company, the Rough and Ready, nearly drowned swimming Bryce's Creek to get boats for his men. They made him governor. He sold salt so people preserved meat, used blockade runners to send North Carolina cotton over the sea, kept the mills open. He may have been KKK's Grand Dragon. In Ashe County is a mine, now closed over, where lawmen from 5 counties dumped bodies. Farley knows of a hooker. They used her, caught her drug dealer, rolled them down the shaft in the 70s. When he married, Vance enslaved 6 people at his house in Asheville. Lamar told me 5 years after how he'd been picked up, stopped at night in Phillipstown, shaky from heart medicine, in a bar for the men's room, beaten, taken, pleaded, served 8 months. He had letters from Wynton Marsalis, but the judge said, I don't believe you're a musician. And the cop, I'm gonna ruin your life. Lamar's voice is a thunderbolt, gold, out of his barrel chest. He's no taller than a music stand, his people out of Trinidad. Last night, pinks, like split pulp of blood oranges, ignited the borders of black ridgeline, clouds the wet, vulval inside of conch shells, webbed like pulled cotton, a leakage of corals, yellows, golds.
Thank you.